March 3, 1924. An institution that was almost 1,300 years old, the Caliphate, was officially erased from the pages of history. Since then, a question has repeatedly arisen in the Muslim world over the past century. Is the Caliphate system merely a historical system of governance, or is it an obligatory act of worship for every Muslim according to Islamic Sharia? In today's discussion, we will rise above emotions and try to find an answer to this profound question in the light of the Quran, Sunnah, and historical data. First of all, we need to understand what the word caliphate actually means. The word caliphate originates from the Arabic word Khalifa, which literally means to be a representative or successor. In Islamic terminology, the person who takes on the responsibility of leading the Muslim Ummah, protecting the religion, and administering worldly governance after the death of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is called a Caliph. That is, it is not a continuation of the prophethood, but rather a legacy of the administrative and social responsibilities of the prophethood. In the early days of Islam, especially during the period of the Rightly Guided Caliphs, the Caliphate was a symbol of Muslim unity. At that time, religion and politics were not separate entities. The Caliph was both the Imam of prayers and the head of the state. But the question is maintaining this system obligatory according to the Sharia? In response to this question, most classical scholars and jurists of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat agree that appointing a leader or imam is farz-e-kifaya for Muslims. World-renowned Islamic thinkers such as Imam al-Mawardi, Imam Qurtubi, and Ibn Khaldun have mentioned that having a central leadership is essential for establishing justice in society, protecting boundaries, and implementing the provisions of the Sharia. Imam Qurtubi, while commenting on the part of Surah al-Baqarah, verse 30, "I will certainly send a representative or caliph in the earth," said that having a leader is essential for resolving disputes among people and establishing justice, and there is no principled disagreement within the Ummah on this matter. Although the Quran and Sunnah do not directly give a blueprint for a specific form of government called caliphate, there are strict guidelines regarding leadership and unity. In verse 103 of Surah Al-Imran of the Holy Quran, Allah Almighty says, "And hold fast all together to the rope of Allah, and do not be divided." On the other hand, in a hadith narrated in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever dies without taking the oath of allegiance or bay'ah to a leader, it is as if he died in the days of ignorance." With this hadith, scholars prove that Islam does not support a leaderless or chaotic lifestyle. However, leadership here does not only mean political power, but also a system that ensures the security of the life, property, and religion of the Ummah. Why is the discussion about the Caliphate so intense in the modern era? The main reason for this is the current geographical and political division of the Muslim world. Many believe that the main reason for the weakness and disunity of Muslims is the lack of central leadership. However, many modern and contemporary researchers believe that the Caliphate does not mean just concentrating all power in the hands of one person, but rather its main purpose is to implement the maqasid al-Sharia, or the goal of the Sharia, which is to establish justice, public security, and human rights. There is scope for ijtihad or research among scholars on how this concept will be implemented in the current era of nation-states. One thing is important to be clear here. The Caliphate is not a magical solution that once declared will solve all problems overnight. Looking back at history, we see that whenever the Caliphate moved away from the basis of justice and shura, or consultation, and became a monarchy, Muslim society was fractured. So the main issue of discussion is not just the name Caliphate, but the ruh, or soul of that system, which is justice and accountability. Finally, we are faced with a profound truth. The concept of leadership in Islam is not a mere seizure of power, but rather a trust or a great responsibility. A greater truth than the theoretical debate about whether the Caliphate is obligatory or not is that Muslim Ummah must remain united and seek the welfare of each other. Until Muslims forget their differences among themselves and unite under the banner of knowledge, science, morality, and justice, it is not possible to restore lost glory by simply changing the name of a political structure or by adopting a specific slogan. True caliphate begins with establishing control over one's own self, which ultimately reflects justice and the law of God in society.